selected Ibrahim Raisi through a sham election as the regime president and then appointed another criminal, Ejei, as the judiciary chief. Raisi was a member of the Death Commission in the 1988 massacre to implement Khomeini's decree to execute PMI members who remained loyal to the organization. 30,000 political prisoners were executed in few months. It is time for the international community to side with the people of Iran and their desire for change. The Iranian people have clearly demonstrated their demands and their resolve for change. They reject the regime in its entirety. So, let it be clear, regime change in Iran by the Iranian people and their resistance is inevitable and nothing can prevent it. It is time for the world to recognize this fact as well. The people of Iran expect governments, including the US and the European governments, to revise their policy on Iran and side with the Iranian people.
Thank you very much. The recent selection of Ibrahim Raisi to serve as Iran's president, I believe, is a sign of the regime's growing desperation and vulnerability. 30 years ago, Raisi was in charge of the Ayatollah's death squads, and he's now the president of that country. A brutal mass murderer responsible in 1988 for the massacre of 30,000 political prisoners. His selection as president is clearly intended to quash internal dissent and intimidate the people of Iran into remaining silent. But we must never remain silent in the face of evil. Many people attending today know well just how evil Raisi is. Many of you gathered here and many of you looking on lost loved ones by Raisi's hand. You lost your homes, your livelihoods. And as I heard in a meeting just before we gathered here, some of you barely escaped his grip with your lives. So today, with other distinguished Americans, we join you in pledging his crimes must not go unpunished. Ibrahim Raisi must be removed from office by the people of Iran, and he must be prosecuted for crimes against humanity and genocide. And today, by all indications, the resistance movement in Iran has never been stronger. Resistance units. Resistance units in Iran are the center of hope for the Iranian people. They're the engine of change from within during the uprisings and continued protests. And let me be clear, and I know I speak on behalf of tens of millions of Americans, of both political parties and of every political philosophy. The American people stand unequivocally on the side of the Iranian people and their resistance. One of the biggest lies the ruling regime has sold the world is that there's no alternative to the status quo. But there is an alternative. Well organized, fully prepared, perfectly qualified and popularly supported alternative called the MEK. The MEK is committed to democracy, human rights, and freedom for every citizen of Iran. And it's led by an extraordinary woman. Mrs. Rajavi is an inspiration to the world. Her 10-point plan for the future of Iran will ensure freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, and the freedom for every Iranian to choose their elected leaders.
We and our allies around the world can bring about the end of the regime by supporting the people of Iran. And here in Washington, we can rebuild, if the administration will take the lead, the historically bipartisan, nonpartisan American policy toward Iran, which existed before the division over the JCPOA. And incidentally, in doing so, we will do something good for America.
The world, and in particular our own government, should not be paralyzed by the variety and enormity of the acts the mullahs have committed. The response should be unrelenting pressure and an open willingness to deal with individual members of the regime, including Raisi himself, in whatever forum becomes available. Of course, the only assured way to end this conduct is to end this regime.
There is an alternative. There is. There is one organization that has never compromised with the terror, never sat at a table and divided up your freedoms, never participated in the genocide, isn't responsible for your poverty. There's one. And that one organization has the means, the leadership, the focus, and on day one, the international support to rejoin the international community. That organization is the MEK, and Mrs. Rajavi is its leader, and we are the answer.
Iran now has, I think, in everybody's estimation, a criminal for a president. The election was a sham. He was not elected, he was selected by the supreme leader. Raisi has the blood of 30,000 of your countrymen on his hands. He was one of 4 members of that infamous death commission that oversaw 30,000 executions in 1988. If we and the European nations start to deal with this person, then all we will do is strengthen that regime.